Ryan Stanton here with the ACEP Frontline, joined by a good friend of mine and somebody who's moved about as far away as you can possibly move and still be in the continental United States. KK Moody, you may know her or recognize her as the founder and the matriarch of the emDocs Drive, our site with nearly 17,000 members on. I've talked to her before about a couple of things in the past, and we were here in Chattanooga and had a talk on social media and how modern technologic advances and methods for knowledge dissemination and discussion and things we never had access to before. And as she even mentioned in the talk, there's always a double-edged sword. With the great things that you get, there's always the chance you're going to get cut yourself. And you know, we've seen that with emDocs. Anybody that's on there, being from that group of 200 all the way down to the near 17,000, incredible opportunities for knowledge and discussion and support and things like that for emergency doctors from around the country, but also around the world, but also the chances that show some of the nasty sides of social media, of the trolling and hiding behind a computer screen and doing things. So we wanted to talk about that a little bit. And first, with KK just recently moved out west, and we'll talk about Glacier Rock and all that other stuff. And for some reason, every time I hear it, I think Fraggle Rock, the old show from the 80s. So you young residency kids won't even know what we're talking about, but people middle-aged will understand what we're talking about. But we'll talk about that some, but also let's just talk about emDocs initially. Talk to us, let us know how it came about, because it wasn't anything that you'd been in medicine a long time. I mean, you're just getting done with residency, you've got an idea, and then you roll from there, and now 17,000 ER docs later, here we are.
So thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate you pretty much covered everything. I'm not sure that there's anything left for me to say about emDocs. So we're done. Just kidding.
We're only 2 minutes in, unfortunately.
Just kidding. No. So I was still a resident when I started this in 2013, and I just wanted to share the joys and challenges of emergency medicine with some other people who were walking in my shoes every day. It really grew when I put Marco Coppola on the group, who I think knows everyone in emergency medicine, and he added all of his EM colleagues. And at the time, I had this setting where you could add your colleagues. So it just exploded. When we got to about 8,000 people, though, I changed the settings where only the moderators could verify to let people in, because we wanted to make certain that emDocs remained EM physicians only. So it's grown and grown. It's sort of morphed into all kinds of things that I had never intended. I really wanted it for wellness, and I think it's still serving that purpose. But as we've gone, it's kind of also morphed into educational people, just sort of educational stories and knowledge sharing. People will put hypothetical cases. What would you do in this case? Or I've thought of XYZ on my differential. What am I missing? And other people will pipe in and they will post articles, and it's really kind of phenomenal. It can happen at 4 a.m. It doesn't have to be. I think it really makes us all realize that there are many emergency medicine doctors across the country who are awake at 4 a.m. on any given day.
I think what you find out is, that's what's nice is every ER has an ER physician on in that night shift, and that is one of the cool things I liked about it, because it's that sensation of when I was moonlighting and you do this split shift, cross shift, and you always have an attending there, and you can talk to them about the cases, run things by them. And with the volume of emDocs, you send something, unless you're just way, way out in left field, you're going to get a response within 20, 30 seconds from somebody that can kind of confirm or say, you just throw something out there. So how would you do this in this patient with this particular thing? Oh, I've had that. We just had that. I've got 3 in the ER right now with that same thing. And so that knowledge sharing is huge. So let's talk about some of those, benefits that you see in terms of the positives of information sharing, research, hashing out new ways of thinking, approaches to practices, and things like that you see on the emDocs page.
Well, certainly there are so many things that are being shared and that become kind of our standard if we're on emDocs, things that other physicians that may not be on it aren't necessarily doing yet. Everything old is new again, right? So we're all trying to get away from opioids, prescribing as much as possible. One of the things that so many people on emDocs are doing are giving IV lidocaine for renal colic. There's an article that was shared on emDocs by one of the members that is an Iranian study, but it was showing some effectiveness of that treatment. And so everybody started saying, oh, I tried it. It almost became like a case series in an informal way. And so everybody said, oh, it seems like there's not a lot of downside, so I'm going to try it on my next renal colic patient. And then they'll come back 3 weeks later or a week later or the very next day and say, oh my gosh, I had it, I tried it, they loved it, it worked, or it didn't work, and I'll try it again. And sometimes different techniques for shoulder dislocations. There seems to be some favorites that people are sharing, and occasionally, of course, I can't see everything that's posted because I occasionally have to work and have a life, so I don't read all the comments or all the posts. But occasionally someone will tag me and say, thanks for starting this group. Because of emDocs, I was able to take care of a certain type of patient and with success. And it feels really great to know that we have this platform now where we can help each other. It's not me. I just kind of threw it together, and it is about every member that's on our group that is so generous with their knowledge sharing and with helping each other. That's what's, I think, making it work.
I think the one you're referencing that keeps coming back around is the FARES technique for shoulder reductions, and that has been huge. I've actually referred several people to it, and I've used it. And that is a cool thing. You'll see things that has research behind it. Other people have tried it, but it's still kind of frontline, cutting edge type stuff. And you can pull it in and, either ask questions about it or actually do it, and then report back, and you kind of get feedback. So the lidocaine is one of them. The FARES technique for shoulder reductions. I mean, there's a lot of different things out there that do bounce around. And what's neat now is they're also getting these little offshoots from emDocs in order to, smaller groups of specialty thoughts like EMS docs or emDocs in leadership, and, all these little side groups that have been put together. I'm in a few of them. And there's always the positive side. But there's also some things we've noticed a couple of times. I think you were ready just to plywood up the windows and doors and turn off the lights and things like that when things would go on. So talk to me about, with the good comes the bad. There's the yin and yang in the world, and there's been plenty of yang, and I don't know, I'm not up enough on Eastern culture to know which one on yin and yang is good and bad. I don't actually think they're differentiated like that, but the balance on the bad side of things that you see on there.
Well, certainly education it's not mutually exclusive to personalities. So we as EM physicians are very opinionated, all of us, because we make decisions for a living. And maybe many of us went into emergency medicine because we are comfortable with on the fly, making decisions, being in charge, and that's what we do, and that's who we are. So of course, when you get a large number of people who are quite opinionated in the same space, you're going to have some disagreements, of course. It makes my job more difficult occasionally when someone steps out of line and not only disagrees, which is great to disagree respectfully, but when people step out on a limb and start being really nasty, if they're name calling or if they're just really sort of negating the other person's opinion. And it kind of cycles. I definitely almost closed emDocs down completely during the election because people were it was almost like we all forgot that we're colleagues and we all just started yelling at each other. And I honestly, when I say all, really, 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 it was not all. It was maybe about 20 people we probably had about 10 to 12,000 members at that time. But there was a few people who were starting to get ugly to one another and be disrespectful. And so I was continually going on almost daily, sometimes multiple times per day, reminding them, guys, this person that you are talking to is your colleague. This person struggled through residency. They were sleep deprived. They are likely in debt for student loans, and they just worked a shift this week and saw the same challenges that you did. So be kind. And sometimes it would sort of correct it and get it back on track until the next person decided to pick a fight. I've come to the conclusion that there are a select few people who want to fight. They do it as a hobby. And when I see that repeated over and over and over, I have taken a few people out of the group. If I warn them and I see that they have really continued to be completely disrespectful to their colleagues, I don't let them stay in the group, because it just is not consistent with what we want, because it's all about wellness and support. So I am in support of people debating and disagreeing. That is completely okay. What I'm not in support of is people degrading one another and being disrespectful.
I was actually going to ask you if you'd ever red carded anybody in the group and actually kicked somebody officially out. So it's happened.
It has. It's rare, and it takes a lot. I have a very, very long fuse. And there have been people that I've let them stay for months and months and months, and when I finally do, then there are other people thanking me, please, why didn't you do this a long time ago? And I don't want to take anybody out. I really don't, because that's our colleague, and they need our support. But there's got to be respect for colleagues, and we have to keep the peace. And so I don't censor, I don't delete. If someone puts something on there, as long as their name is on it. Now, if they put something on there and it's not their real name, they either have to put their real name on it or they have to take it out. I won't let someone be in the group that hides behind a fake name and is not nice to their colleagues. But if they own it, I will leave it. I won't delete it, but I will ask them to be respectful.
So what you're saying is you really have to be a special kind of a-hole for KK Moody to lay the gauntlet. Now that you're out West Coast especially, you got kind of all kinds of love and feeling and warmth towards people. And it really was. It got painful during the elections. And actually, honestly, almost any type of interactions with human beings, during the last election was painful. And I imagine we got some coming up, which won't be as bad. But, it's going to be an issue. And that's the challenge. And you mentioned it was just a few people. And that's what it is, though. But it only takes one person to fart on an elevator and it ruins it for everybody. And kids, cover your ears. We're talking. It's late afternoon stuff after only sleeping 4 hours type stuff. But, it really is challenging, because for the 17,000, for the 20 or 25 people who are really being malignant, we're not talking about just disagreeing. You're talking about, folks that get on there and actually just honestly just wait till you're not paying attention and kick you square between the legs kind of stuff. And it's just that type of behaviors, and it almost has to happen that you got to say, okay, enough is enough. And that is one of the challenges of social media, is it does give you some level of anonymity to yell and scream at the TV, knowing that the person is not going to theoretically, not something they would actually say to your face. If we were sitting here in front of me, would you say that or call me that or make that comment or, whatever it may be. But let's turn it back around. The talk was about that. It's important to know. I think it's a fantastic group. There's pluses and minuses. There's certain things that you have to ignore. Certain posts, especially during election time, that you just let it slide. The challenge is you get 400 comments later and it's still at the top of the news feed. But you've got another project going on right now that is a tangible project. It's not on the Interspace web, even though we talk about it on there quite a bit. But you've got a new project going on. Talk to us about this new effort at wellness that you somehow, and I'm going to take a messaging from this, moved it as far from me as possible that you could, because your initial thoughts were going to be within an hour flight of me. Now it's across a very large mountain range and a very large flat place with corn.
Well, so I did go to Washington, but Ryan, I did not sell my farm in Tennessee. I still own 33 and a half acres in Tennessee that could potentially be the second one, hopefully. Yeah. I don't want to sell it. So that being said, so Glacier Rock, or Fraggle Rock as you call it, I never thought of that. It is an extension of emDocs, really. It's a way to reach each other and to be able to sit around the campfire and talk to one another and just support one another. All the good things that happen on emDocs, I want that to happen in real life. There's only so many things that we can say to each other on social media, but there's so many things that more ways that we can support each other if we're face to face. Things that we can say that we can't say on social media, especially in a group that large. Because if you think about it, your boss, your people that you are their boss, your future residents, anyone will be able to look up what you say on emDocs now and forever, but face to face, it's gone as soon as you say it. It's only in the memory of the person that you say it to if you're sitting by the campfire. So I wanted to create a space that is all about wellness, just like emDocs, but I wanted it to be face-to-face. When I did move across the country, it was so much fun because all along the way, every stop along the way, I met with another emergency physician that I'd never met before. I put my path on there of our driving and said, who lives here? I stopped in Kansas City and saw someone. I stopped in, every town along the way. Where did we stop, guys? Denver, we saw someone. We had lunch with people. Even a couple of people let us stay in their homes instead of getting a hotel. So that being said, Glacier Rock is 70 acres that I purchased in Washington. It is 30 minutes from White Pass Ski Resort. It is right in the triangle between Mount Rainier National Park, Mount St. Helens National Park, Mount Adams, and there's lots of state parks all around. It's in an area that's very much caters to tourism and camping. Lots of RV parks, lots of areas where people can come and camp and hike. So I think I found paradise. The property is 70 acres. It's on the Cowlitz River, so we can fish for salmon. And then there's a creek that comes right off a glacier and feeds into the Cowlitz River. It's all flat, but it's surrounded by mountains. It's a valley with mountains on all 360 sides. So initially, we will have primitive camping. There are no cabins. We're probably closing on the property within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm estimating. I was on the phone with the bankers today and the realtors and the insurance and all those things. Everything's in place. We just have to set the closing date. But we'll have people come and they can camp in tents initially. Eventually, my dream is to build cabins all along the river so that we have spaces for people to spend the night when they come. But then they can go anywhere from there. They can hike all around. They can go skiing. They can mainly come back together during the day and sit around the campfire, talk about emergency medicine or talk about their families, bring their families, do whatever you want to do outside. And we also are planning a big CME event. I can't say who's doing it yet. That will be to be announced. But this summer, we're probably going to have a wilderness medicine conference. And so, I don't know. I'm super excited. I can't believe it's a reality. It's been years that I've been planning this, and it's finally happening.
We talked about the good, the bad, and the troll side of social media, but this wasn't a situation where you had, you came off your pile of $100 bills to make this happen. This is something that's been, in many ways, has been funded by this very group that you started, doctors that clearly have invested. And I had a Cole lawyer in Kentucky say that it's easier to squeeze money out of a rock than it is out of a doctor. But you've gotten this huge investment and interest from the docs. Tell us more about the founding members and the folks that have helped make this happen.
Well, I think in our very nature, we as human beings want to connect. And I think that we want to help each other. And nobody wants to get rid of their money, of course. We work really hard for it. Most of us have student loans, including me. My husband is an emergency physician as well, and half our income goes to the IRS, and most of the rest of it goes to pay our student loan bills. So between the two of us, we're still about, $500,000 in debt or more. It started off way higher, but it's not like my dad's a farmer. I didn't come from money, as you say. This is not like me just throwing all my $100 bills out there. It was truly a labor of love that was a joint effort. I could not have done this alone. I could not have done this without emDocs. We started talking about it. We've been kind of talking about it for a couple of years on our group. And people came out of the woodwork. And there was a point where many people had put their money in initially, and then there was kind of a lull. And then I told folks that we're at 70%. And this may or may not happen, but I want all of you to know that the money is sitting in the PayPal. And if we do not get 100% of the goal that we need for the down payment to make this happen, you get 100% of your money back. I am not keeping anyone's money or even a percentage of it. I wanted people to know that it was safe. And maybe because of emDocs, people believed that I was going to be honest. It just amazes me that they trusted me, and I feel so humbled and honored that so many people came through and really trusted that this would happen. And I will give the shirt off my back to make this happen for people, because the founding members truly gave money completely trusting me to deliver what I said I would deliver. And I feel this incredible obligation to make it happen and to make it amazing, to bring people together so that we can support each other in real life.
All right, chit-chatting with KK Moody, Washingtonian with Tennessee Farm. And I think Butterbell's still in Tennessee, right?
She's in Arkansas.
Arkansas, so she's made it part way there. Still got a long way to go to get to Washington. For the sake of your children here, who are about to run out of folders to artisticize, and the fact they want to go swimming here in the hotel in Chattanooga, which they can probably do out in the parking lot since it's been raining since we've been in here. We will let you guys go. Check it out on Facebook if you haven't been there. KK Moody, she's easy enough to find. If you are an emergency physician and want to be on the group, there's about 2,000 people waiting, so it's hard for her and the moderators to identify. Make sure you answer the questions and let them know and get on there, because it is a great resource. And if you have to turn it off a little bit during election season, especially coming up here in a couple of few years, you may have to put pause for a little bit, but it's a fantastic resource for around the world and for emergency docs, and it's really added to a community of profession that was typically very solo and isolated when it comes to practice of emergency medicine. So KK, thanks once again for joining us here on the ACEP Frontline.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
And we made it through this one. The microphone didn't skip out again, I don't reckon. They're closing down the place. Apparently the hotel closes the doors and locks it up when it starts to get dark here in Chattanooga. And so we're going to call that quits for the day. And for me, contact me, yourtoeverydaymedicine@gmail.com, yourEverydayMedicine@gmail.com, @everydaymed on Twitter. And until next time, I'm Dr. Ryan Stanton, and this has been some ACEP Frontline.